What's up, everyone?
Hola, what's up out there?
We got a pretty cool episode tonight.
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's along the lines of UAPs, maybe. You want to give them? You want to give them a little?
Nope.
Okay. Turn on.
Tune in.
Drop out. Ride this wave of weird with us because you're about to enter
111.
What's good, do that?
Man, I missed this, AK.
I know it's been a while. Things have been kind of busy, right?
Oh, just a little bit, but you know.
Yeah. What we got for this episode?
This week, we're going to talk about Nope.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Now we're gonna talk about a little bit about like UFOs in cinema. We just walked out of Nope.
Nope. It's Jordan Peele's new movie.
Yeah. How you want to give them like a brief synopsis? And unfortunately, listeners, if you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't listen to this episode because we're probably going to spoil it. Because that's the only way we can really talk and get nitty gritty into a lot of the elements of the film.
So, spoiler alerts, if you have not seen Nope, stop what you're doing right now and go watch it. Yeah, it was a very interesting film. It follows two siblings who own a ranch, and weird occurrences happen out on this ranch, and they're out to capture evidence of it. I guess because we already gave you spoiler alert, banner alert. Yeah, they're gonna try to capture a UFO on film.
Oh,
You know,
that's always cool.
because for some reason we're in 2022 and we still cannot get clear footage of a UFO. I don't understand it.
We got 4K, we got 8K cameras accessible.
Yeah. And,
It's crazy that nobody has ever been able to capture like high def, stable footage of a UFO or a UAP.
I'm glad that you said stable because that's always a thing. It's just like shaky cam footage, you know. And I get it. Like all you have is your cell phone, maybe.
And you're zooming in, so
You're
once you zoom
trying-
in,
yeah,
there's no stabilization.
there's no way. But I think Jordan Peele killed it.
Hold on. Before you even talk about him killing it, what were your expectations for this movie?
Honestly, after watching the trailer a couple of times, well, the first time I watched the trailer, I was like, "Yep, I want to watch that. That's got
Yup.
my attention." Yeah, but to be completely honest with you, I really thought they were gonna touch on like skinwalkers.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that was my first thought because we're on a ranch. Creepy things are happening. We hear weird noises, and we don't know what's happening. They don't give you any idea of what they're gonna deal with. And I was like, skinwalkers. It's going to be about skinwalkers. But, you know, that was not the case. But even so, I think it was still kind of cool that it's like a, you know, just like this unnatural occurrence, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see like the way everybody interprets like their idea of like UFOs and especially from a creative standpoint, because I don't know if you've seen M. Night Shyamalan's Signs.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, it was just so eerie.
Yeah.
And it has that very like mysterious element to it. And then you know, because it's an M. Night film, you're gonna get like some kind of revelation or like revealing at the end. And
What I liked about Signs was how the story unfolded, and that's what I was kind of expecting Nope to do. Not that it didn't do that, but like Jordan Peele kind of leaves things open for interpretation, you know. A lot of his films are based on allegories, and so I already kind of like went in expecting something like that to happen, but I was also kind of expecting the story to unfold the way Signs did, and maybe that was my fault for expecting that because it doesn't unfold in that same way, you know. I mean, we understand that there's some history with our characters, of course, it's just character development, but it didn't unfold the same way. And I mean, that's totally fine, you know. Like he has a very unique style, and he told his story in a very unique way that we, I mean, but how did you feel walking out of the film? I mean, did you have a lot of question marks like after?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had like two stand out where I was like, I don't know if I just was oblivious to some kind of like deeper meaning to the question marks, but I don't know. I think for me overall, like if we were to rate this film, on like originality, on cinematography, like if we want to go into like technicalities, the cinematography like killed.
Oh, it definitely.
I think
the
he used
aerial shots.
Yeah, I think he used the DP for like the one that Christopher Nolan uses, which is like pretty insane.
Yeah.
Apparently this guy was like the master of IMAX cinematography. So I think I saw like an interview where Jordan Peele was like, if you could capture a UFO, he told this to the DP. He was like, if you had one chance to capture a UFO and you could use any camera in the world, what would you use? And the cinematographer was like, I would shoot on IMAX. Like the biggest film print I could find, or. So the cinematography was amazing, like it really was. The sound design,
it added to the
I'm telling you
factor.
Like I had to stop, and sometimes I really try to not talk during a film. I mean, sometimes you do if it's like a less serious film, but we were so immersed. But I just had to say, like, I stopped halfway and I looked at Christian and I was like, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
There's a scene where the ship is like hovering over the house, and the sound that it makes as it gets closer is so terrifying.
It's the screaming of the people that I think is what, it's kind of like when you I know when I first started going to film school and I took an audio design class, I remember learning about the movie Jurassic Park and how obviously they couldn't Foley a dinosaur roar, right? So they had to like create like all these ways of recreating what a dinosaur's roar would sound like. And I remember my teacher at the time saying that like they had to use like jets and like these sound effects coming from like airplanes to like recreate that, like, and that's kind of what it reminded me of when you hear the spaceship or the being hovering over the house, because it's just like a lot of like roaring, but mixed with like the agony of like all the people that it was eating. It was fucking terrifying.
It was like this subtle roar though. It wasn't like it was like a like it reminded me of when my brother and I went to go watch War of the Worlds, and you can't watch a film like that on TV and get the same effect. But I remember when Jimmy and I went to go watch it, the sound was so intense and so like immersive that I think that was so terrifying, because I looked at my brother and I was like, this is it. It's too real. Like it took me out of my element, and it was just. That's what this felt like, when it was like flying around, and it just had a very haunting like sound.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to even describe the sound that it makes, but it was just like harrowing. And the thing that I thought was really neat is how they depicted the actual spacecraft.
Oh, yeah. My favorite was at the end when you finally see it unravel, and then like how it's just making eye contact with you, and you're not supposed to make eye contact with it, obviously, but like as it's making eye contact with you, and like it's just like it almost felt like it was sizing you up, like when it starts to just like give you like this like explosion of fabric that's coming out of it with these like green colors. That was one of my favorite parts, like because each sci-fi director who decides to like create a new monster, you're always wondering like, okay, what's the design going to be for this monster, for this alien? And this was his interpretation, which I thought was badass.
Yeah, I think I really appreciated that he kept some of it closely to almost like what ufologists and like people that follow it, you know, like the whole cloud thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that was cool that he kept that, or like that common element in it, because people, you know, there's people that believe that they're cloaked in the clouds. And to see it like on film, it's really eerie because it feels so authentic to, you know, the things that you have seen. Like I've seen footage, like real footage of clouds that take shape and look similar to like these UFO ships, you know? So to see that, and then the way he created the effect of the tunneling in the opening of the ship, that was really neat. You know, that was causing a vortex and pulling people into the craft or whatever it was, you know?
Yeah.
And it's weird because, you know, like you said, the interpretation from Jordan Peele as far as like what the craft is, it was like its own monster. There were no little green men in there.
No.
That were like, you know, this felt like an homage to Tremors, but with like an alien ship.
You know what's funny? You know, you talk about people having their own interpretations on anything, and like that's one of my favorite things about watching movies is, you know, you can like take from it what you will. And I know after we watched it, like I asked you like, what do you think it represented, you know? And we did a little bit of research and we found a couple of different things, but one of the things that we did stumble upon was how this film, the story could have like a biblical representation. And Anderson, I remember you showing me, and maybe we can like show the viewers like in a second pictures here. I remember you showing me what they say that biblical angels are supposed to look like. And they, you know, from what we found, you know, with this story being somewhat biblically inspired, is that, you know, the aircraft could be seen as something from not this world that's coming to take you from this world, right? Whether or not you're ascending to heaven, and obviously that's not what happened in the film, you know, more like a hell. But you know, but like when it unfolded, the imagery reminded me of what those large creepy angel pictures you sent me were. Yeah. And I had never seen that until you sent it to me.
They
you know,
they're very like, just it's like a bunch of eyes, like, you know, like it's if we find some of these images, we'll post it.
I mean, I'm looking at one right now. Like, tell me that doesn't look creepy. Like
is that Metatron or Seraphim?
This one
Seraphim is like a winged with a big eye and like almost like tentacles with eyes.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Doesn't say.
No.
You should type that in, Seraphim angel.
Okay.
But you know because you mentioned that, I just thought about something that I watched a decade ago. It was a YouTube.
Here we go. So I'm sorry not to cut you off.
No, you're good. It was a YouTube video. Obviously, it's somebody made it, but there's a group of people that believe the ships, and this is crazy because this is the movie really, really makes it seem like has some kind of validity, but probably not. This guy said that he was able to channel these UFOs. And he was like, these ships are not from space. They are actually demonic entities.
Yeah.
And they're just taking form as something that people don't understand.
Yeah.
But they're thinking it's like a higher technological being. But really they're just like fallen angels disguised in this weird shape, traveling to try to basically steal souls. Isn't that weird?
That's really weird. But then that, you know, brings the question of like, well, then does God have, because if God is all powerful, stronger, and, you know, more so than Satan, and then would he have stronger technological?
He's like in this big craft that's just like fully armed.
Like he has to be like, you know, the Iron Man of, you know, But that's interesting, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have heard that theory before that like aliens aren't.
From space, right?
Yeah, they're not from space. That they're more like demonic entities, which is a weird thought. But I mean, I guess not any weirder than any of the rest of it.
Sidebar, because we brought that up. Because you brought that up. Do you remember seeing that movie, The Fourth Kind?
Yeah.
That's what made it even scarier to me, because when I saw that one, that documentary that I saw on YouTube a decade ago about the aliens or the crafts being demonic, that one really gave me chills, because the fourth kind, they go back to Sumeria.
Yeah.
And the Sumerian gods or fallen are trying to still inhibit or like live.
Yeah.
And so they're basically like in spirit form, but they're trying to take bodies so they can continue living. And that movie, I couldn't sleep for a couple nights.
That movie was really creepy, and I really enjoyed watching it. And I was so upset that they decided to go about the way that they did, which is like because they were using Mila Jovovich as Mila Jovovich, you know, and it's like they were trying to give you like a documentary, but then afterwards you find out that it's all just like there's no validity, like there's like it was all false, like there was no real evidence tied to it, and I was so mad because then it's like if you're making a fiction movie, then like make it a fiction movie, like maybe like call her something else or whatever. And and I mean I get it, it's the appeal, it's like what Blair Witch Project did, but like at least with Blair Witch, like they didn't name their actors after like their real names, you know, like, but I was just a little disappointed that like they lost credibility by doing that, because I enjoyed that movie very much.
I didn't know that they
they got into like some heated water about like how they were trying to like prove that it was real, and like none of it was real.
I thought that the stuff in Alaska, the footage from the police car, was real. It wasn't then?
None of it was real.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe there's just an agenda. There's a group of people trying to make aliens out to be demonic instead of like
welcoming.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but just to make the whole God and Satan thing real by making these aliens, you know, a part of Satan's army. You know what I mean? Because in that movie, it was showing that these people were being possessed.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's also what did you watch that movie Dark Skies?
Yes.
Oh God,
that's another creepy.
I remember watching that and I couldn't sleep that night. I could not sleep that night. That scene where the kid is like riding his bike down the road and you're just worried that like a freaking alien's gonna abduct him, you know, and you're just like, make it home, kid, make it home. You know, and like I think I remember telling you, like, after you find out, another spoiler alert for Dark Skies, please watch it if you get a chance, but like when you find out that like they mark you by putting something behind your ear. Do you remember my ear was bothering me for like weeks after that? And I'm like, Anderson, can you look and make sure like nothing's behind my ear? And you're
there's
like,
nothing there.
But that movie like creeped me out so much. Like there were so many different elements to that, and it's such an underrated film. Like not a lot of people know about that movie.
I know, and
it's creepy. But that's another good alien film.
So these are your angel pictures you found?
These are the ones I found. That's Seraphim that you mentioned. Yeah, that's
that
freaking creepy, man. And like the post that you sent me that one time was like, how would you react if this thing, you know, like however tall, like I mean, just think like a, you know, like a large like building in front of you. Yeah. Like how would you respond to that being confronted by that? And it's like. And it's supposed to be an angel, right? So it's supposed to be like on the good side. Mm-hmm. I would freak out. I'd faint. I think I told you that too when you asked me. I was like, I would faint. I would just like pass out.
No, so I do like the kind of the visual choice that they used for the unraveling of the ship towards the end when it just went all out. Like, you know, it was. I feel like it felt less aggressive and malevolent.
Yeah.
When it was like the hard shell, your typical UFO craft.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just so harrowing. Like, I'm serious. When it was just like going max speed And the way that they captured that visual, it's scary because it felt so real. You know, like when it's flying through the clouds and you're seeing like glimpses of it. It's like,
Or when it's flying between the mountains and it's just like hiding
yeah.
so quickly you can't even see it. Just like,
It's like they did a lot of research on like, you know, actual footage that they've looked at.
yeah.
And they're like recreating it. And they even mentioned the little tic tac. Remember?
Did they?
Yeah, they mentioned it, and I was like, wow, okay. That's crazy. Like that they would give, you know, kudos to the pilots that tracked that little tic tac in the I forget what part of the.
I must have missed that part.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was crazy that they mentioned it, and I was like, wow, okay, because the government's like, here, they're here, but people are just like, where? They're like, here's footage, and they're like, it doesn't look like the aliens we're used to.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
where's Independence Day? Where's that mothership? Where are the little green men?
Where's the xenomorph?
That's what they're looking for. And we got to the point where, like, even if you have solidified evidence, it's so hard for somebody to even believe it nowadays because of how technology has evolved, and like there's like deep fakes.
Oh, for
CGI
sure.
is so good, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you believe anything?
I watch everything with skepticism.
Yeah.
Everything on the internet. Nothing is real to me. Not even the news these days can be trusted. So it's like 9 times out of 10, if you see a video clip of a UFO, do you think it's, I mean, like you, I'm asking you personally, like, would you be like,
Me personally, I think that my first initial reaction is always like spectacle. I'm always like, ooh. Especially if it looks like it's real. I always believe it right away. It's just a flaw I have. Like I'm so gullible sometimes, you know. I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, that looks authentic." And then once I see somebody break it down, I'll be like, "Oh, I guess I didn't think of that."
it's funny that you mentioned spectacle because that is one of the motifs of this film.
Of the film.
You know, of everything being a spectacle. Which leads me to, we have to talk about Gordy.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that was a part of the film that was like the question mark that I had when we walked out.
I was like,
because I didn't understand like why they put that in there.
oh yeah, but even just watching the Gordy scene,
it was rough.
did you see when I looked at you and I was like, Anderson, what is happening? I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, this is wild. And
It was intense.
yeah.
It's okay. So in the film, there's a character named what's his name again?
Ricky Park.
Ricky Park. Yeah, he's played by Stephen Ewan. Most people know him from Walking Dead as Glenn.
Yeah, I always call him Glenn.
Because I called him Glenn when we walked out of the theater. I was like, what was Glenn? What was his whole thing? So the storyline goes, he was once a child actor, and he worked on a show with a chimpanzee until one day this chimpanzee, I think it was like season 2, episode 3, just has a major freak out. And it shows the major freak out happen. It's just the way it's filmed. It's so intense because Steven's character, he's like a little boy hiding under a table while this chimpanzee is like bludgeoning the people working on set, and like it's just really intense.
It's unsettling.
Yeah.
And then we find out after we're looking through, facts about the movie, is that it was loosely inspired off of true events.
Yep. There was an actual person that was mauled and attacked by
a trained chimp, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it was at first, after seeing, the movie, you walk out and you're like, why is that even tied into, like, what did Gordy have to do? But then you piece a few of the pieces together, and you see that. That's why I mentioned, you said, it being a spectacle. It's like that's what one of the themes was of the film, is that like we can't look away from the drama. We can't look away.
Which was Steven's character the whole time, because it shows him going back and forth between when he was young, experiencing that trauma, and how he kind of learned to cope with it. And the way he copes with it is to continue to like exploit similar spectacle things. So
I mean, even when he's describing the Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
Like,
and go ahead.
No. I'm just saying that description alone, where he's like, it seems like he's happy to retell.
Yeah, it was like he was excited.
Yeah.
Like, it was a weird fetish.
It was so weird. And at first, you don't really know, the details of the story, other than, he's just telling you what the actors on SNL are doing, and how, Chris Kattan's like killing the role of Gordy, but you don't know the meat of what happened. And then you just see him smiling while he's retelling this, and he's just like, people ate it up. Mm-hmm. Another spectacle.
Yeah. So. And his character, he puts on this show at this little ranch that he owns, which is connected to the, what was it, Hayward?
Yeah.
Haywood Hollywood Horses Ranch, which is the main character's family business. And he wants to buy the main character's land just so he can like have access, because he apparently knows that there are these sightings. There's the sighting of the UFO.
Yeah.
And he's been slowly like buying horses from Daniel's character. Yeah. And then he's just feeding this ship these horses.
Yeah.
And then it backfires on him. Mm-hmm. And he can't look away because the UFO is hovering right over him and all of his guests, and he can't look away. He's in it. Because
he made the mistake of trying to tame the beast. And I thought it was unfortunate that they had to make the reference to, what were the tiger wranglers? Siegfried and Roy.
Siegfried and Roy.
They try to tame the beast, and, and that's what he was essentially trying to do, was tame this, UFO/alien creature. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do you tame one? Because you're feeding it? You think you have like a unspoken agreement?
Like, hey, we're cool, right? I just gave you like 11 of my horses.
I'll give you a few more.
No, I think it changed on him when he ate the metal horse.
Yeah, he got it.
That's when the agreement was like slashed.
Yep.
That's funny. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the direction and then the acting?
So I really like Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya. I think they're both very talented actors, and Daniel has worked with Jordan before in Get Out, and I thought he did a great job in that. But like you had mentioned earlier, like he barely had any lines, and he was very stoic and quiet the whole time, but you could see all of his emotions the whole time. Like, even though he wasn't saying much, you knew what he was feeling, and you knew what kind of a man he was, and I think that's a relationship he probably built with Jordan Peele, based off of what Jordan wanted to get out of his character, that's my interpretation of it. Because he didn't have, he barely said anything during that film, but we got the fact that like he had responsibilities on the ranch, after his father died, he was the one in charge now, Keke, wasn't around to handle what he had to handle, and then, she comes to visit us, and you can tell she's a free spirit, and this is not the lifestyle that she wants to live, and she's just like wild in her own way, almost like an untamed horse,
Yeah. She's trying to be a star.
Exactly,
always pitching herself any chance she gets.
Yeah, she's in her own way untamed as well. But I thought the direction was really good. Their performances were great. They brought life to the film. What did you think?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know why it was just so compelling to watch Daniel Kaluuya just in his element. I've seen him in a ton of movies, and he's a shapeshifter. Like, he really carried this movie without saying very much, but just watching his physical demeanor and his nonverbal acting and his performance, it was so good.
Yeah.
You know, because I was sitting there thinking, like, how am I watching a movie about this guy going about his day? But it's still very, like, intriguing. Like, it's like you want to know, like, what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't say much, you want to know what he's thinking. So you're watching him. You're constantly just observing his actions. And when he does interact with, like, his sister, they rarely... They do not have, like, this normal brother-sister bond, you know, because she even says in one part, she's like, can I get the fun OJ instead of this, you know? So I feel like when they were younger, they got along quite well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they have that whole thing with the eye. She was like, you saw me, but Dad didn't see me. I was watching you guys train my horse, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, he loves his sister, but he's also very annoyed just because she's tagging along with him.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, think about it. Like, that alone, that carried pretty well as far as, like, performances, because they were believable siblings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, and the writing was interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, Jordan Peele, to me, he feels like this era's Quentin Tarantino in his writing, because some of his writing is so offbeat that you're like, I feel like Jordan Peele is coming through with his dialogue, you know, kind of like Quentin Tarantino would do with, like, a lot of his films. But it got to the point where, you know, he was basically saying things straight directly to you in the film, you know, like sidebar. And I think Kill Bill, there's a scene where the character goes, Gargantua. I've never heard that word, but I want to use it. It sounds good. It's like I'm literally listening to Quentin Tarantino say that. So he's like, let me put that in the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Jordan Peele has his own style of writing, and it's just so original, but it's very offbeat because it's not like a cliched, you know, like you watch the perform, like Kiki, like her dialogue was the best.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel like her dialogue felt more like a lot of the Get Out dialogue. Like, it was very much expected, you know, like in Get Out when the buddy who's the flight guy, the TSA guy, you know, just like the one-liners. It's funny, but it's just like it's almost like it's expected, like stereotypical, like, you know. Yeah. So I feel like he still had some of that element, but at the same time, like, a lot of really random offbeat, like, dialogue. Yeah. Especially with the cinematographer in the film. I don't remember his character's name, but he was
Holst.
very... Okay.
Yeah.
He was very weird.
Yeah, I mean, you're creeped out just listening to him, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's, you know, what made the movie, you know, so cool. Like, I mean, I remember, like, walking out of the theater and telling you, you know, you get to a point when you're watching a movie, you know, well, it depends on the viewer, but, like, some people can watch a film and just, like, you know, have some, like, cynicism, and they're just like, well, that would never happen, and this would never happen, you know. But you have to, like, learn to just, like, let go of, like, the reality that you're in, right? Because you go to the movies to be entertained, and then, so, like, you're watching, you know, this battle between Daniel Kaluuya and a freaking alien being, essentially, is what it comes down to, you know, and they have, like, a face-off with each other. And, you know, then you just, like, give into the fact that they're, like, now one-on-one, you know, he's battling an alien with nothing and a horse, you know. But I think that's what's so cool about Jordan Peele's style, is that, you know, he's just like, this is what I'm giving you, and you're going to take it. You know?
Which is cool because, like, it had like three very distinct elements, I feel. Like, it had, like, an homage to, like, Tremors. Right? Towards, like, the end of the film, it was like you're watching Tremors, like, that people are running away from those sandworm things, you know? And same thing, like, he was yelling at his sister, like, he was distracting the monster so she could get away,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it had like the Tremors, like homage to like, you know, the monster run away, survive kind of thing. And then it had like that whole extremely suspenseful, dark build up where like he doesn't reveal it so easily. You know what I mean? He doesn't just like blatantly just, you know, towards the end you see the craft all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's not even, you're not even hiding it anymore. But for the second half, it's like very ominous and it's terrifying. I'm telling you, like, I stopped to tell Christian that it scared me more than seeing something like The Conjuring because you know what you're going to get with The Conjuring.
Yeah.
But it's just the way he plays it when the ship is hovering over the house.
Yeah.
And
it's the unknown,
yeah,
right? I mean,
it's very suspenseful.
yeah.
and
the sound.
The sound in that theater was so loud.
It was
so loud.
obnoxiously loud.
There's some parts that I couldn't understand the dialogue because it was so distorted because of how loud it got.
Yeah.
And then if we look at the first half of the film, I feel like that was his build up to his characters.
Yeah.
You know, because he broke down little chapters for every character that he used, from the horses to Stephen Yoon's character. You know, like it'd be like, was it Shadow or I forget, Lucky, you know, Ghost, yeah, not Shadow. But because when I see movies like that, I'm like, okay, they're setting up to hone you in on a character.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering like if it was going backwards to tell a backstory or if it was still like relevant in the timeline.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I was kind of unsure, but then I was like, oh, okay, it's the same timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I really thought it was one of his better films because I didn't really care for the last one that he came out with.
Us. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably like my least favorite. This is his third, right? His third installment. Yeah. So I mean, I'd say I like this one more than Get Out. Get Out was his debut, but this one I think he really shined through, and you can tell like through and through that man is a sci-fi like director, writer, you know. And I think for a little while people weren't giving him that credit as like being a sci-fi director, you know. But you look at the stories that he's created, he's definitely a sci-fi creator, you know. He's a big fan of the Twilight Zone. He directed the new Twilight Zone series.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to it's cool because like, especially since we have like such an appreciation for film and cinema, it's just like refreshing to get like a different taste, a different perspective. There's hardly any cliches or stereotypes in this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, you asked me, like, do you think there's, like, some underlying deeper meaning to the film? And for me, like, I watched it. I think maybe the second time might be a little bit more in-depth, but this first time was really just an entertainment. Just let myself watch it and then ask questions later, you know? Like, don't try to figure it out. Just let yourself, you know, surrender to it and just go knee-deep in the immersion, right? There was somebody that we just watched give their interpretation, and it was a pretty cool interpretation, and it was basically, and it has validity, I feel, because of the opening scene, because the movie is about a horse wrangler his father's worked in Hollywood. You know what I mean? So I feel like the tie-in with Hollywood and, you know, just being like, eaten up, like this guy was interpreting it as the UFO was Hollywood and it's eating up all it can, you know, from people, using all their good parts and then spitting them out after they're done, you know. And I feel like, you know, maybe that's why there was the whole, you know, don't look into the eye. Right?
I feel like the eyes was another big theme the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you said, like the hand gesture between Daniel and Kiki, where he has, you know, his eyes on her and she's watching him. You have the intro where they can't look into the eyes of the horse. You can't look into the eyes of the spaceship or the being. You have the moment with Gordy and Stephen Ewan's character, you know, when their eyes meet. It's like a whole, and then like, again, things being such a spectacle and like you just can't look away. You know, it's like a bad car wreck. Yeah. Like you just can't look away.
We were late to the very opening, but I'm surmising, or like I'm just assuming that the OJ Senior was looking up, and that's when the key fell from the sky and
into his
cut
eye,
and that's what caused him to die.
Yeah,
you know, so it's like it just all kind of like has a symbolism.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're, you know, a film buff. I mean, I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea, you know, just because there's a little bit of like your own interpretation of, you know, his style of filmmaking.
I think it's going to take off. It just opened, you know, it hasn't been out for too long now, but I think it's going to take off. I think once word gets around, people are going to, you know.
But I really think you have to watch it in theater. I don't think if I would have watched it on like TV,
yeah,
I wouldn't have gotten the same effect.
Yeah.
It's shot on IMAX.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the cinematography was just so like, it was like amazing.
It was beautiful on screen, honestly. Yeah. I mean, all the aerial shots, I felt like they took time and effort into, you know, framing everything that you needed to see in that shot. You know,
I love the night shots at the beginning. Just the way they lit it. And I saw a screen grab. They had a crane that was probably like 3 stories up that had a huge lantern.
Oh, wow.
To give that, because they were just, it looked like moonlight.
Yeah.
You know, like it just looked like the light
very
was
soft glow.
Yeah. So I was like, man, this is really good. Like it was very captivating.
Yeah.
So
I recommend it highly.
What do you give it out of 5 stars?
Honestly, a strong 4.5. Definitely. Only reason I'm not giving it a 5 is just because, you know, like I just, it's and not that it's a bad thing, but it's just so open to interpretation, you know, and like that was my fault, like going in and expecting, you know, a story to just like unfold piece by piece, you know, when really you just have to like take a step back and just like put it together yourself. But other than that, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 4.25. And I know I get it. Like for me, sometimes I'm a lazy viewer. Like I want to be spoon fed sometimes. Like in terms of like, how does it wrap up? Do you remember how it ended? You know, like I don't know.
We actually waited for like the ending credits to like, you know, see if there was like another cut scene at the end, and we were like, I had to Google it. I was like, is there a cut scene at the end of this film? No, okay, we can leave.
You know, when I watched Signs, I remember I was so hyped.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh man, what couldn't have asked for a better director to do a movie about like aliens.
Yeah.
And M. Night was just hot off the press, man. He just did The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and then all of a sudden Signs.
Yep.
It was just like, I'm there.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And all the marketing they did for it was so good, and it was so scary and eerie. And then I remember watching it, and I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, this is good. Like, it really, it was like intense. But then I remember, like, now I'd have to watch it again to see if I still have the same feelings, you know, because I think at the time, like, a lot of people were hating on the whole fact of, like, the water.
I was going to say, I remember that. I still love that movie.
Yeah.
I still watch it for, you know, fun purposes. And it didn't bother me that much. But I know so many people, critics and, you know, film lovers, like, were just so mad that the water is what took them out.
Yeah,
you know?
because then, like, Mel Gibson's wife in it tell him, like, use the water or something like that. Something with water.
No. She just kept telling him to tell his brother to swing away.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Swing away.
Swing away.
Yeah, that part I was like, cheesy.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I got it mixed up with the water thing because I was like,
Yeah.
was it? Yeah. Okay. No. No. To all our listeners, if you guys go check this film out, let us know in the comments. You know, like, tell us what you thought. I mean, like I said, it's up for interpretation. I rewatched Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I still love it.
Another unbelievable film.
I went with my fiance and her family, and they just thought it was okay. But for me, it was like life-changing. For them, it was okay. It was kind of all over, you know, their interpretation was it was all over the place.
Yeah.
So for me, it was life-changing because of the messaging and everything. So,
Yeah.
so I get it. Like, everybody has their own, you know, take on stuff. But see if it aligns with ours. See if it's close to, you know, if our recommendation is, you know, up to par with what you guys are watching. So
Let us know.
yep. Do you want to tell them how they can?
Yeah, you can reach us at enter ENTER 1 and 11 ELEVEN on all socials, YouTube. Follow us wherever you find us, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and reach out and let us know what you thought about Nope.
Nope.
Please.
Yope. Before we close out, though, I just had a sidebar. So the brother and sister were like so excited to try to capture a UFO,
Yeah.
right? Do you remember when we were in White Sands and I was like, please let us see a UFO?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I was like, I got my camera ready. Please just show yourself.
And if there would have been a place for that to happen, it would have been freaking New Mexico.
Yeah,
because,
White Sands, New Mexico. It was a
Yeah.
missile testing site.
Yeah.
So
Or, I mean, even just New Mexico, period, because it, like the
Roswell.
the 3-hour drive that it took us to get there.
Yeah.
There were just mountains for days. And oh my God, my mind is blown. Do you remember, Anderson, that weird looking cloud
Oh, yeah.
that we drove under?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time we were like, what if there's an alien in that cloud? I mean, an alien spaceship in that cloud.
Yeah.
My mind is blown right now because
Yeah. Like I said,
it was such a weird looking cloud. It was so big, like one of the biggest clouds I've ever seen, and in such a weird shape.
but there are no clouds beyond.
There was nothing else.
It was just that.
Just this one cloud, and we're driving underneath it, and I was like, Anderson, what is this? And I remember you trying to look at it. Did you try to record it too? And you
I
couldn't
think I
get
told you to
anything?
record it because I was driving.
I was driving.
Oh, at night?
Yeah, at night.
Oh, I was thinking it was in the daytime.
No, it was at night when we were driving back.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I remember. I was trying to record it.
Yeah.
I was trying to record it, and I was like trying to look through the moonroof. That was
Yes,
it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was wild. So who knows? Could have been.
Luckily, we didn't experience
Luckily
no.
not.
Luckily, we didn't experience no because that was terrifying.
It was terrifying.
All right. Well, thank you for all our listeners, and catch us next time.
Bye.
Bye.